Welcome to the template. We'll take it for a little spin together. We'll use this example, which is Jigjoy.io. And as you see from their website, they offer these all-in-one solutions, they hate the word, for content creators and just like knowledge economy creators. It's a very interesting tool. I analyze it already. So it enables you to do lead magnets, courses, email programs, group coachings, and whatnot from a single point, from a single solution. You see that they have a very good looking Notion-like website, so looks super cool, and they are right now generating the applications for waitlist. But there is a cool competitor that I will analyze in this video as well, and we'll just like instead of starting directly with the case, which is very limited in terms of what I can show, we will analyze and see what is somebody who's a little bit ahead of us doing. You see that like all-in-one content creator store is something which is much clearer in terms of messaging. You also see that there are like a bunch of content creators from all sort of fields, including spirituality coaches that are already on this platform. So this is how their stores look like. They have very healthy traction. To create 15 million is definitely not a piece of cake. And I very much like this one because it addresses this risk that I have as somebody trying new softwares, that it will take me 1 weekend in order to do the setup and that my time to value is going to be incredibly long. So set it up in 10 minutes is definitely a very good value proposition for me. And then you have like a little bit of testimonials, very interestingly here, LinkedIn toolkits probably being sold on LinkedIn. And yeah, I guess that is it. In terms of pricing and how much could I potentially save, I very much like this comparison because I am using all these tools, probably the majority of them for sure, and to have all-in-one tool for $30 a month is something that sounds increasingly interesting to me because my tooling right now is around $300 a month. So to reduce that on 10%, that would be freaking amazing. And let's see the integrations here. These are the sender suspects, then one-tap checkout and start 14 days trial. Looks very appealing to me. I was initially introduced to this software in one of my WhatsApp groups. So content creators, we actually talked to each other and somebody was asking, hey, is anybody using this? And everybody was like interested. Back to the board. After we understand the example and also, let's say, a very close competitor a little bit better, we will start with just like what we already know about this market, right? What is true about this market? And I actually find this very cool report on LinkedIn about the size of knowledge creator economy and market, which is super, super, super cool. I mean, the place is getting more and more crowded, but let's start by just like, okay, writing the name of the brand here, writing the date here, but diving into the nitty-gritty by writing a couple of observations. So let's say that knowledge economy is growing. There are more and more people who are trying to sell digital products and monetize their audience. The second thing that is true is like there is more of competition. And the majority of content creators are not technical. So they need no code or low code tools to get started. All the tools that I know from my analysis have very, very, very unsatisfactory custom support. There are Facebook groups, Reddits, and whatnots for people to just like get the basic troubleshooting done. And what else do we know about this market is that, okay, it's competitive, it's something that is definitely growing. And in terms of willingness to pay, let's say that we need to have the content creators that already have, let's say, healthy earnings in order to have a monetizable audience. So we shouldn't be stuck with people who are not even serious enough to record videos, but the ones that have already established this as a revenue stream for their business. Okay, cool. We have these assumptions about market. This will be good enough to get us started. So let's dive into different elements of product market fit. As you know, we all start with a product hypothesis or an idea, but ideas are cheap, execution is not. And an average company takes 5 to 7 those spins of product market fit cycle in order to find the winning combination of a target segment that we are taking into consideration in go-to-market. I call it Beachhead segment. We'll talk about this later. Minimal viable business model. How can we actually make money? As well as minimal viable product. So yeah, this is the core concept that I'm using to just like think about product market fit. And let's briefly sum it up here in what is your product. So it's an all-in-one store for knowledge creators. That was beautifully explained by a competitor. What problem does it solve? Okay, so instead of paying, let's say, 300 or more a month in order to do this, we can manage and we can have everything in a single space, which is a huge value proposition. Let's say that it is easy to set up and manage online place to sell paid digital products. Wording could be much better, but I'm speeding up in order not to keep this video of a manageable length. Then we have the target customer, and target customer is a really interesting space, because as we analyze these content creators here, you see that this solution is aka horizontal, meaning that it serves many different industries. But the majority of companies start by just like finding an untapped market opportunity, something which hasn't been pursued by their competitors, and we need to build solutions that are 10x for this. So if I am just like analyzing these examples here, and as I analyzed more competitors, I very much assume that Instagram space is quite cluttered. This competitor also has TikTok integration and is very active with ads there. So let's assume for now that our initial target audiences are LinkedIn content creators with over, let's say, 30K followers and consulting / digital product business, so that they can actually start making money as soon as possible. And here, if you have any sort of dilemmas when using this template, all the links that I put in the brackets here are clickable. So if you don't know what is an ideal customer profile or how to make sense out of this, please go through these articles to have informed and very good decision-making basis in order to successfully fill in this template, right? So, okay, we have this, and this is kind of our fundament, how we are thinking about this. Every entrepreneur can tell you what is the product and to whom is our idea to sell it to. So that should be easy, but we can already start making some clever decision making in this section. Next section is all about how to make sure that we know how to communicate added value as well as capture it with our pricing packages, aka business model. So we'll see here that how customers currently solve this problem. First thing is that they go with existing alternatives such as Thinkific Teachable and just set it up there. The second competitive alternative would be to DIY, and they might want to do something on Calendly to sell paid consultation. So we have Calendly, maybe they have a PayPal link, a little bit of a landing page in WordPress, for example, and email. So as you said before, we have multiple different solutions by which we could be tackling this. So, okay, we have this, and maybe the third one would be to do manual bookings, which takes a lot of time and a lot of emails. So that's definitely not something that would be recommended to do, especially at scale. Again, here you have a very good resource, and you can use these frameworks to actually do more detailed competitive benchmarking of what is a certain alternative good at, what it's not. And yeah, you can always deep dive to this, but for the beginning, we are okay with how our content creators with 30K followers on LinkedIn are selling their courses now. The next step, we have UVP. So how is this tool that we created better than, let's say, existing alternatives? And we usually go here with the elements that are actually relevant for our target audience, right? So what is the promise that we can give to our target audience? And we need to position against something. So remember this 10 example that we were reviewing before. What is our advantage? What could be our advantage? And if we just look at this, you see that it is not like it is very scattered around, and there are a lot of things. I don't know if I had to speak with a spirituality coach or real estate coach, what would be our common grounds for discussion, maybe how to sell online courses. But nevertheless, this is something which I would be hesitant to just like be in a community with. So here is a simpler solution. These are the usual suspects. And my assumption right now is that UVP for this new tool could be to have a LinkedIn first business solution for content creators and a single client base email list, but on which they can promote courses, right? Because my number one concern as a content creator myself is how are my digital products selling? And if I have a tool which is more specialized and compatible with other people on the platform, and if it offers me kind of like additional exposure or a community in which I can be discussing my problems with, especially if I have very, very, very pressing customer support problems, then this would definitely be convincing UVP, at least for content creators of my type. So that's it, okay? And then how much would I be willing to pay for it? I know that, for example, pricing on Teachable or Kajabi is somewhere around where Stan presented it also, and this is a really good benchmarking for us. Let's say that my tooling right now costs $300 a month, and I could easily go with 100 and would be superiorly happy with this if everything worked and the process would be super streamlined. And maybe I don't know all the competitive alternatives. Maybe I'm not making these decisions as confidently as I could because I haven't done all the research. I was just like randomly recommended one tool. So we're right here that, let's say, our initial pricing and business model assumption is to do a combination of, let's say, standard packaging, right? Or to just like capture value. So the percentage of transaction, which is something that Gumroad does. Let's see very quickly Gumroad pricing. Here, so it's 10% flat. no additional fees. My fear of me not selling and not being able to have a positive return on investment from this one investment, it's practically gone. And as you are growing your revenue, this commission reduces. So if you make millions, it would be even like as low as 2.5%. But nevertheless, as somebody says to me that I will be like paying percentage of my sales, I'm like, fair enough. But if I'm like really huge and I know that I will like literally sell this myself, I start comparing this with the Stripe processing fee costs, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, is this really like worth that much? So I would consider here even a combination of pricing for Teachable or Thinkific, which is actually a typical subscription. So here what we are viewing at is that I could be having all these tools for, let's say, 100 a month, something like this, right, in euros. And yeah, I see the live support here, I have this, so admin seats looks good to me. And for the example that I'm tackling, I would practically be testing, and I would go and I would talk with a couple of my target audience representatives. How would they prefer to pay for this, right? And I would map these insights to make a final decisions. But right now I have two ideas. I actually have three ideas. The first one would be to charge commission only, like Gumroad does. The second one would be to have 3+1 packages that I would center around, let's say the normal package would be 100. So let's say that here I could capture between 5 or 10% of this to be more specific. Then for the second one, we have written this, and the third one would be hybrid. Maybe I could go with a subscription plus transaction fee. I don't know. I have to test willingness to pay and how people would prefer to pay. Right. So here is a wonderful article that will explain you more about this. But for now, these are my assumptions. Plus, I definitely need to have free trial or a free package, even if I later on investigate that this is the case. But this is how I'm thinking about pricing at the moment. Okay. We have our initial hypothesis here. It's very, very, very interesting to just like observe how this will evolve in future. But this is how we are thinking about these elements of go-to-market strategy at the moment. Right now, we need to start narrow things down in order to be more specific. So let's say that this company is just like generating wait lists at the moment, and wait lists is something which I have proven to to know how it converts from my own book launch. So we generated 3,000 emails, and out of this we had 600 customers on a launch date. I'm not saying that it can be translated directly into their business. But what I know is that waitlist, if it is launched 2 to 3 months before your actual launch, converts at 10 to 20%. Yeah, might convert it at approximately 20, which is super good. But this is just something that I wanted to share with you in terms of doing these benchmarks. Let's say that for this company, mission critical is to create monthly recurring revenue of, let's say, 30K. That would cover the team, right? And if we, from our initial pricing hypothesis, conclude that, let's say, an average customer would pay us approximately 100 per month, that means that we need to have 300 paid users. Not considering the churn here because I'm not doing some fancy projections at the moment, but here it's just like so insightful to translate this monetary goal into users, because then the question, what is mission critical to me, becomes how to get 300 paid users. And users can go and experience the free trial and from a get-go and then convert to pay. Usually the conversion, if you go this way, is below 10%, or you can go and actually start converting customers immediately after they do the setup, a more advanced setup, and you can use something like reverse trial in order to get things rolling. But here, if the goal is to just like get 300 paid users, it is very actionable at this stage, because I can frame my thinking in just like mission critical, how to get 300 paid users, who has like the largest pain point, who is most likely to convert, how to get this done, and this would be it. I'm literally using logic optimized for monetization here, because this company is bootstrapping and founders are still on other projects. So it's very important to have this monetary goal in mind. However, if you would be building ventures differently, that would not be the case. Maybe like mission critical would be to get 100 or 1,000 free users. So this is very intimate to a company. And sometimes we have to monetize for, optimize for monetization. Sometimes we don't. So this is something to really think about and spend more time on. Okay. Then we have the pre-last section, which is just like, if our goal is to have 300 paid users, then how do we get them? And let's say that we will start with this logic of beachhead strategy here. Beachhead strategy, if you don't know the concept, it's all about niching down and selecting the best place to win before you expand further. So in the first bracket, we are selecting a segment which has very high pain point, that they are literally like, shut up and take my money at you. The second criteria that we are searching for here is just like that it has some sort of indication of willingness to pay, preferably high willingness to pay, so that you can actually monetize them, especially important if they are bootstrapping, that it has like a healthy growth potential and ability to recommend more users, to do good referrals. And last but not least, when it comes to beachhead segment, it's very important that you have this proximity to it, so that you know it, that you know how to sell with it, and that it is will not take you 6 months in order to figure it out what those people actually want. So based on everything what we know so far, we can easily conclude that our beachheads segment here, I will just use the text in this one, not post-its, are LinkedIn content creators that have their own books. Right? Because if they have their own books and their own digital assets around this, they can immediately start selling. And let's say the additional criteria for this would be that they would have at least 30K followers on LinkedIn. So that's a very interesting segment to observe, because if they are selling their books on Amazon, for example, they are leaving 60%, 40 to 60% of their revenue to Amazon, and they could be intrigued and would be intrigued towards monetizing this further. Okay, from these book authors with, let's say, semi-large audiences, the proof of monetization later on would be to go and implement this onto 50 to 100K solopreneurs on LinkedIn. Right, because if you remember here, before Stan had this 50 million made with this, let's say that this segment has very high pain point from the get-go. So, and we have like better proximity, they can onboard really fast because they already have all these assets. And for those guys who are actually a better customer for us, but a little bit more difficult to close in the initial installation, we need some evidence from this cluster to win further on references when it comes to our, let's say, ideal customers, the ones that we can actually make a lot of money with. It's not necessarily so that we would have to go and do a smaller segment beforehand. We can either go and do a case study with the segment that we have in mind from a get-go. If we have a good access and we manage to convince them that they would work with us. But yeah, usually we first need to win a smaller chunk of market, which is ready to work with us today before we go further. Okay, later on, let's say that we have a couple of very good use cases on LinkedIn. Maybe we could even narrow them down when we actually know what is going on the market, and say that this is just like for LinkedIn content creators in the product manager space or something like that. But we don't know that from the get-go. So we will just like fingers crossed for now that we did the right type of callings and refine this later. From here onwards, from LinkedIn, definitely interesting space to win are also just like these brands of consultants. On Instagram, for example, but I would still stick to business cases here, because if you have people from the fitness space or beauty industry or something like that, they have different questions and it's just like not the same type of audience. So based on our value proposition that we did before, that this single, let's say, email list could be an element of unique value added, we could still benefit from this one if we do Instagram and maybe TikTok, whatnot. There is like an overlap with this one as well, because if a creator has a very strong LinkedIn, it's very likely that they are going to have healthy Instagram and Twitter and TikTok profiles as well. Sorry, Twitter is called X right now. So let's say that we are still playing with this segment, and in the later stage, after we go and just like position this as B2B course creators tools and digital products creator tools first, then maybe in the next page we would consider going to more mainstream applications and try to find and investigate added value there as well. I don't know if this is down their roadmap, but at least for those three, I have a very, very, very good feeling that this is going to be the case and that this is an underserved market after I observed and compared a couple of competitors. Okay, cool. So now we have the validation field, meaning that when we will be doing a plan how to win those 300 paid content creators and actually successfully onboard them to our platform, we need to just like select research and validation methods that we will use in order to make these decisions more with confidence. I definitely recommend you to do interviews no matter what the stage is. You will learn a lot about what these people are thinking, what alternatives are they currently using, why is a certain alternative not the best for them, and when you have this room to grow. After doing them, you will actually improve all these elements in this part. So interviews are almost inevitable for companies. When it comes to validation methods, let's say that we should select 2 or 3 at least. So interviews, definitely. When it comes to surveys, we usually do them more in B2C. So if we are like B2B here, I wouldn't rely solely on the surveys. I think that I can get much better insights of just like interviewing selected people and probably also pre-converting them on our beta lists later on. Then you already saw that this software uses waitlist at the moment, and maybe, just maybe, we could be using this one, co-creation with a client. So for example, if they they invited me as a content creator to co-collaborate and co-create this type of software with them, I would be inclined to pay them and definitely sign up for a solution from a get-go, because why not? Like, they are literally solving my problem. When it comes to other things, like you can do market testing with a couple of ads or outreach campaign, how market is responding to your waitlist page. But yeah, I think this is it for the moment. So we have the validation method selected. Again, here are the links that you can use in order to explore this further. But why do we think these things will work is a very, very, very interesting question. So what I already know is that interviews are incredibly important, because at interviews I get early testers. What I also know is that people who work in very competitive spaces, such as CRM, for example, Folk CRM, they had really interesting launches on Product Hunt and pre-sale launches, waitlist launches, as they went a little bit nicher, a little bit more narrow, in order to cater a certain segment of the market which is being underserved by other competitors. So let's say that for niching down, I have anecdotal, meaning it just makes sense to me. And then, since the team is really strong in building assets and landing pages or something like that, wait lists are easily created. So A/B testing on wait lists, maybe with a little bit of help of the ads or some sort of LinkedIn posts, influencer collaborations to promote wait lists. This is going to be quite well in the combination. So A/B testing can be easily done on websites if we promote the page, and last but not least, co-creation with a client. We have insights that content creators are already tweaking a couple of different versions of the product, already DIYing. So whenever this is going on, that means that there is a healthy space to start thinking about solution that would be 10x, sometimes 100x better than whatever they can tweak together in at every given moment. And right now we have to deep dive into what is, at least for me, the most interesting part of go-to-market strategy, because I have marketing background, and these are selected growth motions and go-to-market motions. What I like to think that will happen here, at least like from the beginning, is that we are going to have very simple go-to-market motions, so some really hands-on, maybe even non-scalable things, and later on we will decide what works best for us in terms of messaging and ICP, and double down with more scalable channels. So let's go and let's discuss what is going on here in our competitor arena. So as you know, we are obsessing ourselves with this one stand store, which is something that we want to observe. And I just did a quick analysis here. First, I put this stand store into SimilarWeb, and in SimilarWeb, we see a couple of interesting trends. So they mainly have the audience from the US. Probably they are promoting it heavily on social with some sort of ads. There is some brand awareness already kicking place. So this is amazing. I was personally referred to it. So I will also be a part of this spectrum. In their analytics. Okay, then these other things are not very interesting to us, but yeah, this is where the content creators are sending traffic to, apparently. So Instagram is probably the place for them, most traffic there. And then they are also using display network and a couple of network methods such as Tabula. Interesting. Cool. Let's go and deep dive into this a little bit further. So here is a detail, a technology profile, meaning what pixels do they have installed. So they are advertising on TikTok, then like Facebook presence, which is probably their Instagram, which we saw before. Then what else is going on here? Is anything interesting? I don't think so. I'm just like searching if there is some sort of email marketing program, but nothing that really caught my attention. So yeah, it's this one. And last but not least, we'll go to the SEMrush and we'll see what is going on here in terms of their backlinks and traffic sources and whatnots. Branded keywords. So it's demand is creating elsewhere mainly. Okay, then we have like competitor positioning app here. I can find additional ideas for that. I could be searching for ads here and stuff like that, but since I found this TikTok pixel, I would go and just like see what they are doing there instead. Not to geek out too much here, let's return to our canvas. And as we analyzed now, like competitor is already doing a lot of like paid digital and probably also inbound activities on social media. We of course have to start there, but to just like grasp and get a couple of first clients, I believe that we should be approaching them with outbound and like making partnerships with them. Also, what is interesting here with Stan is that they have affiliate here. Right. So the natural recommendations are definitely going on. So partnerships is definitely something that we want to lean into. And then hopefully our product is product-led growth, as students are going to be exposed to the value that they are getting there, and just like clicking on those link bios, people would learn about this product as well and hopefully take it for a spin themselves. We could be outreaching like to communities of content creators. We could be like doing some stuff with paid already, but yeah, these are the ones that I would prioritize at the moment. So let's set up a couple of KPIs here. For outbound, I would set up my initial KPI in terms of co-creating with a client to get at least 10 committed content creators to work with us on a beta. For them, that would be sweet. And I would probably want to do this with outbound. So I would just like warm outreach to them, set up a couple of calls, and this is pretty much it, what I would be thinking about at this very given stage. Cool. Then for the next one, let's see how could we utilize partnerships. For partnerships here, I think it would be very interesting to work with collaborator groups. So these are the small communities in which people are helping each other to do better on social media. And I'd say that I would onboard at least 20 user groups through content collaboration group. For beta, I'd offer them support. I literally embedded myself into that, and that's it. Then what else do we need to do in terms of inbound? I would set up an inbound target, because before we go to paid channels, it's nice to just like have a little bit of a following there and a little bit of a content. So I would go and say that my inbound should be at least the content that I create should be at least convincing enough not to scare people away if I would be doing outbound. So let's say that here I would establish like at least like 200 followers from main profiles and generate, let's say, 50 posts to look good. That we wouldn't have this gold star problem when it comes to this one, that I would have a little bit of a social proof here, and I would probably just like launch some tutorials there, some testimonials as I get them, and just like see it in action. Product demos are okay, that could be like covers with tutorials, so product demo and maybe some sort of tips for content creators to earn money. We could also do interviews with successful ones. So yeah, inbound is something that I would consider to be more of a support channels for the main ones. And yeah, just have to make this more readable. And last but not least, we have product led. So let's start to color code them correctly. So these are the main ones and these are the support ones. Eva. Inbound would be solved right now, and right now we need to tackle PLG, product-led growth. So I would get at least, let's say 300 content creators to use this link in their bio, plus brand, the product, plus just like as they are sending traffic that you are exposed to product, and then I would even encourage them to post about the solution, and that's connecting beautifully with just like our notions of inbound. So here that we get their user-generated testimonials as well. And also in terms of these channels here, it's a very, very, very good thing to have that they see it in action like we did before. Okay, I'm pretty okay with this one. If I will having problems, I still can sponsor some stuff on LinkedIn and just like take some ads for a spin, but I would start here for phase one. And talking about phases, this is our last job to be done. So here are different stages of what is mission critical to us at certain stage of the business development. As we have already started to think, and we just need to write it down now, how will you get first users? So we will do outreach to selected content creators. Let's say that we would like to have first, we say 20, right, testers, because when you have like those people, maybe then like up to 50% of them are actually with you in a long term, the rest will disappear, they ghost you. So this would be like proof of concept to just like see if things work. In the second stage, we need proof of monetization. So we will continue to grow our free user base here by using product-led growth and organic, and we can scale outreach as well or use paid. But then we are very, very, very critically focused on paid users. And in order to have paid users, let's say that our first goal would be very gentle, and it would be something like first 10 paid users, which is a customer, yes. So the mission critical question would be how to attract first customers. Of course, we can account that some people will just like automatically convert from this phase to paid, but this should not be our sole focus. So we would be inclined to try some paid ads, influencer collabs, because those our users are influencers practically. This would be low-hanging fruit, and I would go and just like outreach. Outreach is always important in my books. maybe warm outreach to the content creators that you have been previously in touch with. So the question how to tackle the first 100, the first customers would be tackled like this. So that's it. Then let's say that we are finally getting closer to 300 paid customers. So this is something which is, let's say, our crown of our GTM strategy at this space. We need to establish at least one scalable GTM motion. And my assumption, reviewing the competitors, is that we are going to rely on referrals a lot. But this is not good enough because you cannot really control referrals. And yes, it's a great sign of product market fit if they happen. But I would also like to do a digital funnel, meaning that we would be using a combination of inbound, so organic, and paid to scale the product. And last but not least, I would be starting relying on communities as well here, because even Product Hunt could be at the end of the day considered as a community, even though usually people don't have great conversion results there. But nevertheless, if there are some content creators groups that prove to be working for us in the previous stage, then maybe consider them giving a special deal or just like affiliate link to their boss. So maybe in this stage, affiliates could come in place already. But nevertheless, here, when we are trying to search for at least one scalable go-to-market motions, we still have like several candidates, and as we said, referral is not good enough to rely our go-to-market strategy upon on. It's brilliant if it happens, but we need to do something else, not only like fingers crossed and hoping that the product is magically going to grow without us sweating in marketing. So the next thing that we need to do is just like to show that we can break even. So this was a break even hypothesis. And let's see that in the proof of sustainable business model, this is when the magic happens. Beyond 300 paid customers, we need to, let's say, to scale it to 500 paid customers on the existing communities and the existing channels that we have derived here, to fully untap the value of this market before we go to the next one. So we'll take it for a little bit of a spin here. I don't know what will be going on with this case at the moment, but one of those things, preferably this one, should be the bread and butter on the next stage. And maybe we should just like divide these organic and paid, because we'll see what will be actually going on in the real world. So these are our candidates, and we'll hope to validate one of them. I think paid could be like a very good candidate. I'll just put it to one. Referrals, we already said that it's not something that we can depend on, and maybe just like these affiliate partnerships could kick in wonderfully up as well, in addition to inbound, but we don't know what will be going on in the moment. But we can set up a healthy fundamentals for the next stage. So here is the expansion to other segments, business and brand consultants. Let's say that here, in terms of using it outside LinkedIn, our goal would be to have 100 paid users that are doing it on a new market, which is outside LinkedIn. So it's either like an X or IG or TikTok. And first, if we have like a good intercept between the first batch of users and that they are also using other stuff, we could build case studies, how this tool helped them to succeed in these channels. And The other thing that we could do is to try more outbound, so outreach with a case study preferably, or even to do some sort of video ads, testimonials. In order to attract them. So we can be like even bolder in our thinking. Again, everything that we were talking about here depends heavily on selecting your target customer. So if we went and selected fitness creators here, course creators, the strategy would have been very different. So spend a lot of time in validating just like who the best target audience is, and don't validate by just like doing the interviews, run some experiments, run some tests, and make these decisions with confidence, because these are the most important decisions. And last but not least, we kind of finished the framework here. Hooray! Thanks for sticking with me and just like trying to understand what is going on here. Based on the time, I have no idea what the time is right now, but based on this conversation, we have good enough inputs to just like say what are our critical assumptions at the moment. So it's definitely this one, which is the target audience. So it's determining many other decisions, and this is it. The second one is just like in terms of monetization model, this is something that we need to validate after we find the initial idea who's our first target audience, but definitely before we narrow down the channels, because it heavily influences our unit economics here and just like our decision making in how we are progressing through stages. So again, this is version number 1. This can change a lot. So start validating as soon as possible. And last but not least, this differentiation is going to be extremely important, because there are competitive solutions right there, and the research says that we don't lose the majority of the clients because they go to a competitor, but because they do nothing, especially in B2B, or they just hesitate to make these decisions, say like, okay, maybe I can do it next quarter when I have more budget. So to just like polish positioning and messaging here is going to be mission critical as well. And that's a wrap.